there, and welcome to Buffoon of the Week. It's a show where we scour the past week's news and current events, searching for people who said or did something so incredibly idiotic that we feel that they deserve consideration for our Award of Shame. We nominate 2 such newsmakers, and you vote for who you think was a bigger buffoon by either clicking on the eye in the top right corner of the video, or by leaving a comment with your pick on any of our social media, including in the comments below. Last week, you voted for Meghan McCain in our biggest vote yet. Once again, our social media went in favor of Deborah Messing, while YouTube broke sharply for McCain. We absolutely love that this show has gotten all of you thinking. In case you just found our little show, our regular viewers already know that we post weekly videos Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, so if you like the work that we're doing in exposing all kinds of political buffoons, smash that thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe to our channel. We're on a mission to get to our next goal of 200 subscribers, so also be sure to tell all of your sarcastic friends all about us. You know the ones we're talking about. There are literally too many political buffoons out in force lately, so our nominating committee had a heck of a time even narrowing down our dishonorable mentions. As the backlash continued in the fallout of the George Floyd protests, the discussion turned towards the issue of Confederate monuments. CNN political commentator Angela Rye wants to kick things up a notch.
Is it about statues and monuments? I know you saw the interview I did with Corey Stewart, who's trying to run for a Senate seat there in Virginia, and he makes the case that it is about statues and monuments, and everyone's trying to make it about something else.
I think that we have to get to the heart of the problem here, and the heart of the problem is the way in which many of us were taught American history. American history is not all glorious, and even though I love John to death, I couldn't disagree more about George Washington. George Washington was a slave owner, and we need to call slave owners out for what they are. Whether we think they were protecting American freedom or not, he wasn't protecting my freedom. I wasn't someone who, my ancestors weren't deemed human beings to him. And so to me, I don't care if it's a George Washington statue or a Thomas Jefferson statue or a Robert E. Lee statue, they all need to come down. There is a way that we can recognize and appreciate. I'm not finished.
You're banning and Trump's talking points.
No, but I'm not, John. I'm gonna finish my point. I'm going to finish my point. I'm not feeding into white supremacy. I'm calling out white supremacy for what it is. And sometimes what it is, John, are blind spots. Sometimes what it is not acknowledging that this country was built upon a very violent past that resulted in death and the raping and the killing of my ancestors.
Sounds like the Chinese Cultural Revolution right here in America, doesn't it? Historical context be damned. If you don't check off every single standard from today's woke activists, your cancellation is imminent, even if you founded the country where you are freely allowed to pursue your woke agenda. Remember last week when we called out so-called social media influencers for taking protest selfies? Well, they're back at it again this week with another example of how far humanity has fallen. This past week, a bunch of wannabe internet famous boobs, mostly from Eastern Europe and the Middle East, were called out because they decided it was a good idea to paint their skin a darker shade in a sign of solidarity with the protests that we've been seeing over the past few weeks. One even had the audacity to post a caption saying, quote, "I wish I was black," after superimposing her face over a photo of a black woman's face. How infuriating is it that in 2020, we need to educate morons about the racist and painful history of blackface? Isn't that right, Governor Northam? Speaking of people completely lacking self-awareness, conservatives online were rightfully mocked for calling for a boycott of the band Rage Against the Machine after just realizing the band's political leanings. I mean, come on, you dummies. What machine did you think the band was raging against for all these years? If you are just now realizing the radical undercurrent of their music, you're definitely a buffoon. But if you want to talk about lack of self-awareness, no one this week will top former NASCAR driver Ray Ciccarelli. Yeah, I didn't know who he was either, until he took to social media last week to state that he intends to leave racing at the end of this season in protest of NASCAR's stated new direction, which includes banning the Confederate flag from races. Yep, that's the hill Ciccarelli chose to die on. But make no mistake, this signifies the end of an era that saw Ciccarelli's part-time career span 3 years and 18 races in which Ciccarelli earned no wins, no poles, and one top 10 finish in the Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series. Man, the legends always leave us too soon. But enough about wannabes and losers. Let's get to our nominees who may actually win something. This week, we put forth for your consideration and comedic pleasure the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone and the band formerly known as Lady Antebellum. Let's start things off with a riddle. What do you get when you cross Lord of the Flies with Animal Farm? You get our first nominee, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, also known as Chaz. Last week in the city of Seattle, police boarded up the windows and doors and abandoned the East Precinct in the Capitol Hill neighborhood on orders of Seattle's mayor following days of clashes where protesters had taunted riot gear-clad cops by flinging rocks and bottles. Since then, those same violent protesters decided to wall off 6 city blocks in the Capitol Hill neighborhood around that abandoned precinct, claiming it as an autonomous zone. Hey, would you look at that? Walls actually do work. The events in the area were apparently news to everyone, including Washington's Governor Jay Inslee.
Governor, I'd like to ask you about what's going on in Seattle. There's this thing called the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. What's your thought on that? The fact that the protesters have taken that over and not allowing people to come and go freely? Regarding it.
Well, that's news to me, so I'll have to reserve any comment about it. I have not heard anything about that from any credible source. Not that you're not credible, it's just like before I espouse an opinion, I should know of which I speak.
And to think, this guy thought he could be president. Anyways, since last Monday, we've all been witness to the struggles of living autonomously. First, there was the food shortage, as, shockingly, there wasn't enough free food to go around after the local homeless in the area took it all. Then, the free zone started turning into a police state. Enter strapped rapper and wannabe warlord, Raz Simone.
If you're legally carrying and all that stuff at the edges, not to scare people, but and with their paperwork, I got mine in my pocket. Again, we don't want that. I really don't want that presence at all. But just watching someone get shot out here, I was there when he ran through the crowd, and I watched someone get shot. So I'm saying, if you do, that would be great if you were over at the barricades.
The owner that's actually being nice and letting us stay here, forgot we are the police of this community now. We are the leaders of this community now. The precinct ain't destroyed, bro, and we stopped them from doing that.
Hey, no, we're just chilling.
No, this is my boy right No, bro. Go then. Stop, bro. Go then, bro. Stop. Hey, I'm not trying to get your hands off me, bro. Hey, yo. Hey, hey, bro. Hey, you gonna buck up on her? Chill. You gonna buck up on her? Chill. What's up?
So this is what Justice in Chaz looks like? Kinda looks like an abuse of power worthy of a protest. Raz wasn't so popular after that clip made it into the media, but neither was news that he has a history of making homophobic tweets. Raz later claimed that his Twitter was hacked, or as we like to call it around here, the Anthony Weiner defense. Hey Raz, maybe you should call the cops about it. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind. So in less than a week, the people in Chaz who ended up protesting against the police state ended up creating a mini one themselves, complete with armed boarders and a scandal-scarred authoritarian who established his power at gunpoint. Still not as bad as the Seattle Mariners, but man, what a dumpster fire. Wait, how could I forget about the actual dumpster fire that they weren't equipped to put out, so they had to call in the Seattle Fire Department? It's been a bumpy road for Chaz, but on the plus side, at least they can organize a game of dodgeball. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. This week's second nominee is the band formerly known as Lady Antebellum. The Grammy-winning country trio announced, in light of the heightened national conversation about racism, that they were changing their name to Lady A. Lady Antebellum made the changes very quickly on social media, including Spotify and Apple Music, as well as the group's website. But maybe it was done too quickly. You see, there is a Seattle blues singer who's been going by the name Lady A for nearly 20 years. Neither the band nor any members of their team reached out to Lady A before making off with her name. Had they asked, they would have found out that Anita White, aka Lady A, has released multiple albums with the name and was gearing to release a new one in July.
I was working yesterday all day, and about 3:30 in the afternoon, my phone had been ringing all day, but I finally had to shut it down on silent. You need to check your Facebook page. And I did. And not 10 minutes later, Rolling Stone magazine. You know, I can't imagine that they could go on and Google and not see me there. You can go on Spotify and see me. You can go on Amazon and see me. To totally disregard the fact that there is another Lady A out there, or is the Lady A, because I am, and have been for over 30 years. I don't understand how they would not reach out. They have tried to reach out to me on Instagram, so I don't know how real that is. I'm not giving up my name. I've worked too hard for it. It's my brand. People know me by that name. I have CDs out by that name. I don't know why they wouldn't reach out. And they knew that Antebellum had a racist connotation to it from the beginning. And maybe they didn't. And so maybe they're truthful in what they said. But in today's climate, I don't understand how you will justify saying that, your name had a racist connotation and you apologize to the Black community, and yet you take another Black artist's name with no regard. It's not right that they can come and decide that they want to use this name and take it from me, because now it feels like another knee on my neck.
So in summary, changing your band name from a reference to the American South pre-Civil War in support of racial equality is a good thing. But it's not a good thing when you simultaneously steal your new name from a Black performer because you were so arrogant that you didn't bother to do a minimal amount of research. Because that's just straight buffoonery. Let's hope the Dixie Chicks avoid the same problem when the Woken Warriors come for them. Hey, don't forget that Buffoon of the Week is all over social media, so when you're online, make sure you like us on Facebook, you follow us on the Twitters, and go on over to Instagram and like us there too. But the most important thing you have to do is remember to subscribe right here on YouTube. So, you've seen the nominees, and now it's time to decide who is the bigger buffoon. And to aid you in your decision-making process, we'll put each nominee through their paces with our trademark-pending Sharpton scale of buffoonery. First, we'll measure the buffoonish nature of each nominee by comparing them to our lodestone of buffoonery, the Reverend Al Sharpton. Then, we'll measure the buffoonish magnitude of each buffoon's actions using our custom unit of measurement, the Sharpton. Time to make some science! Chaz is a social experiment doomed to failure and could possibly result in tragedy. Don't believe me? Think about what was accomplished by Occupy Wall Street. Read up on the Paris Commune of 1871. And look at the rate of degradation already. We've seen socialism fails, violence, corruption, and unrest. And we've just seen the first week. Who knows what's coming this week and in the future? Chaz collectively rates a 76, but its actions in the first week alone add up to 122.78 gigasharptons. And our buffoonologists, they expect to see that number grow on a daily basis. The band formerly known as Lady Antebellum are not widely known to step into political issues. You'd be hard-pressed to find anything controversial or political from them in the last year or so. That said, they done stepped in it this time. Yes, their intentions were certainly in the right place, but their team failed them. They had one freaking job: do proper due diligence on the changed name. Fire them all, start from scratch, and hopefully this will be a distant memory in about a year or so. The band earns a mere 43, but their action is a whopping 18.4 gigasharptons. Well, folks, it's about that time again. We've laid out our reasons, you have the nominees, and the choice is in your hands. Tell us who you got for this week's Buffoon of the Week. Hey, thanks for hanging out till the end of the video. We really appreciate it. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell your friends all about it. We're trying to get to 200 subscribers. Come back next week, where we'll have 2 more nominees, but only one can be Buffoon of the Week.